Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz faces a new potential legal earthquake, and it's happening today. We've been tracking it. An associate that is tied to his legal investigations likely to plead guilty. The Trump loyalist facing a new sex allegation, and this one is about a Bahamas trip. This is in addition to those separate allegations that have been reported that range from paying for sex to sex trafficking to sex with an underage girl. Now, it's important to note, Gaetz denies all of that. And at this point, the DOJ is investigating but has not charged him with any crime. Now, why is today a major turning point? I'll show you. It's our top story. Because this federal sex trafficking probe, which Gaetz himself confirms is going on, he doesn't deny that it's going on and that he's a subject and that he's talked to folks. It stems from an associate that was charged with sex trafficking and other crimes. Now, today, that Gaetz associate, former Florida tax collector Joel Greenberg, had a hearing to discuss a trial date. But the hearing turned out to be fast, 6 minutes actually in all, and we'll explain why. Because under this spotlight, Greenberg is now expected, according to reporting, to plead guilty now to an array of federal charges, which could include sex trafficking and sex with a minor and identity theft.
Prosecutors and defense lawyers say that they expect a plea deal for Gaetz associate Joel Greenberg.
A plea by the former elected official, Joel Greenberg, could significantly strengthen the Justice Department's hand as it investigates Mr. Gaetz.
He's facing over 33 criminal counts, so he has an incentive here to provide any evidence of any sort of criminal conduct.
You can see there all the reporting, a big story all over the place with these indications. Hasn't happened yet that he would admit to some of these crimes. And that raises a legal question that you may recall from any big case that can involve big or high-profile people. It was a big issue in the Mueller probe. The question becomes, will this person flip? Will they become a cooperating witness? Do they have knowledge of crimes by other important people? Will this person work with the feds and the DOJ? Is there exposure here for Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz? And here is something that might haunt him. Here is Greenberg's attorney after court today.
Does Matt Gaetz have anything to worry about?
I'm sure Matt Gaetz is not feeling very comfortable today.
Not feeling comfortable. There are people who see that as an ominous sign for Gaetz. But again, that's one lawyer representing one person putting out that message. We're not yet reporting anything that confirms some kind of cooperation deal. Now, if Greenberg does cooperate, if he does have evidence of interest to the feds, whether that's about Mr. Gaetz or other individuals, he could, like anyone else, get a more lenient sentence. He's looking at 12 years in prison. Now, all this comes as a new report is breaking, first from CBS News, and NBC News has confirmed this, that the feds are probing this separate international trip Gaetz took down to the Bahamas. They believe it was in late 2018 or early 2019, and it's relevant to the probe because it involves, quote, women paid to travel for sex, which could violate federal law, and whether Gaetz or Greenberg, who was in court today, used the internet to search for women they could pay for sex, according to sources that NBC News there has confirmed with. In addition, the reporting says, quote, Gaetz was on that trip with a marijuana entrepreneur who allegedly paid for the travel expenses, accommodations, and female experts, end quote, according to those sources. Again, Gaetz denying all of these allegations. Gaetz has not been charged with any crimes. And we want to report for you, because this is a live and ongoing issue, a Gaetz spokesperson speaking out new about this latest reporting and saying, quote, it looks like a general fishing exercise about vacations and consensual relationships with adults, end quote. Joining us now on this top story riveting Washington is Dave Aronberg, state attorney for Palm Beach County, Mark Caputo, national political reporter from Politico, and also a Florida politics guru. Many may remember him from a lot of our Florida political coverage. And Liz Plank, MSNBC columnist and author. Hello, everyone. Let me start with you, Mark, because this is quite a story, I would say. No shade, but even for Florida.
Oh, yeah, it's a tale of not just one Florida man, but at least two Florida men and maybe many Florida men. I think you summed up the case pretty well. You know, the problem that we're having on the media side of this is we're getting a lot of anonymous leaks, and we're not getting a lot of details. And Gaetz is he's not hiding from this, and he's ratcheting up the pressure. He's going to be speaking tomorrow at a pro-Trump group at Trump Doral, and it's going to be interesting to see if there really is kind of a tit for tat between Gaetz and the Fed, because there seems to be this ongoing dynamic where a leak comes out about him, and then he speaks out about it, and then another leak comes out. So the question is what's he going to say tomorrow, and then what new revelation is going to bring?
Dave, walk us through what happened in court today and what it means that there could be some sort of plea.
Good evening, Ari. Today was not surprising at all because Joel Greenberg is facing child sex trafficking charges involving the same 17-year-old girl at the heart of the Matt Gaetz investigation. And if you add all the charges together that Greenberg is facing, he faces up to life in prison. So he has every incentive to make a deal. So his lawyer pretty much confirmed that's what's going on. And the fact that Matt Gaetz is out there is a lifeline for Joel Greenberg, because Joel Greenberg is just a local tax collector. Matt Gaetz is a congressman, and so he's clearly a bigger target. And Joel Greenberg knows where all the bodies are buried here. And if he's the first one in the prosecutor's door, he'll get the best deal.
Yep. Let me press you for a little bit of precision here, because in fairness, just following the facts, you said, quote, pretty much confirmed. But can we read into that yet? I mean, what Greenberg said could be read as confirmation. I understand what you're drawing on to say that. But could he not also turn around in a few days and say, well, I was referring to why Gaetz should be uncomfortable given all the allegations, but our clients go in a different direction?
All right, I cannot imagine that his lawyers are going to allow him to go to trial where he faces a 10-year mandatory minimum sentence for child sex trafficking. I mean, he's like a walking criminal enterprise, this guy. And the only thing he has going in his favor was that there's a bigger fish to flip on. And so I've always felt that it was inevitable that this day would come. I think his lawyer, though, when you say the other guy should be uncomfortable right now, that to me confirms that this whole deal is inevitable and imminent.
Yep. Yep. And we value your legal analysis here. I want to be clear with viewers. Confirms it for you. NBC News has not confirmed a cooperation deal yet. And as I mentioned the Mueller probe, because it was just such a recent example where there's gradations to whether people are just trying to get a deal to plea, whether they cooperate, and then separately whether they have criminal evidence on others. We're not there yet, in fairness to Mr. Gaetz, who hasn't been charged yet, although, boy, are there a lot of allegations. Liz Plank, I turn to you not for the law, but for what appears to be another case of hypocrisy for a Republican Party that has it campaigned and talked a lot about all kinds of traditional values. What's going on here?
Yeah. Speaking of feeling uncomfortable today, this is the kind of story that you need to take a swig of Pepto-Bismol to be able to stomach and read through. Some of the details today, the fact that they may have shared a girlfriend, and by girlfriend, it's a 17-year-old child, is really, really worrying and pretty astounding. And it's so, Matt Gaetz is what happens when masculinity doesn't get an upgrade. When, in a well-functioning patriarchy, women's bodies and girls' bodies become the biggest form of currency. And to me, the biggest sign of that is the fact that Matt Gaetz allegedly, if all of this is true, and with Joel Greenberg, they didn't just do this, they talked about it. They boasted about these things, about these alleged crimes to other men, to many other men. Politico is reporting that there are 8 people who are, were familiar with the story that they were sharing this 17-year-old girl. So that's very, very concerning to me. And it's very, it shows sort of where the bar is for the Republican Party, and that it is very, very low.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.